Hello everybody, today I have the pleasure to propose to you this key 79 entitled Spiritual Ego. Well, this is the chapter 5 and the last one, by the way. Today we're gonna spend a bit of time with, I'm gonna read for you a kind of case study, a fiction, for which is supposed to illustrate, to put into a context how the egos can play together, and especially the spiritual ego, because it's the main topic of this series of video, and for which is supposed to be a little bit sarcastic, but not far from reality. By the way, a lot of elements are extract from the reality and or inspired from equivalents, let's say. And so actually it's a translation from a book I wrote in French. The title is The Dictatorship of Goodness, for which I translated, but I tried to preserve the essence. Okay, this book is not translated officially and published in English. Why? Basically because it takes time, and those I translated, frankly speaking, there is nobody who read it, so for me it's timeless. Okay, so if someone is interested to edit it for free, because all my books are for free. So last time I did, it was for Sage Passage Utopia that you can download from my website. Actually, I spent $500 for absolutely nothing, and you can imagine that I spent hours and hours for absolutely nothing. Once again, I have no problem to do the job if there is an interest behind of this, but if not, no way. So anyway, so just try to see the different messages, because there are lots. Sometimes you will love, sometimes not, but it is once again a fiction. So before starting, because I will explain you a context and so on, but before starting, I'm gonna start with two quotes, which are from my own, let's say, creation. But before that, I wanted to tell you about the symbol today. Actually, this is really funny because you can see. Actually, there are some clouds, and for 3 months there is no storm, no clouds, no rain. Apparently tonight is gonna rain, and we are waiting that like the Messiah, to be frank with you, the Messi, because the earth really needs that. But also what you can see, there is the clouds. They're like flirting with the mountain. So it's like if the sky and earth were, let's say, connected. Okay, so the spirituality and the materiality are connected. So it's a kind of, for me, metaphor and a sign. Anyway, so let's try to start with two sentences for which we will find them back at the end of this free short part I'm gonna read for you. The ego is like a black hole. Certainly, it is at the center of our existence. Its attraction and repulsion allow the stability of life. However, if badly managed, it can absorb everything in its path towards nothingness. This is the first one, for which I really invite you to put on pause and to reflect about it. Okay, the second one, and then I will decrypt at the end of this video. Ego games are like the medieval dueling provocation of yesterday. Nowadays we find such rituals earth-breaking, and rightly so. Maybe tomorrow it will be the same when we decide to lay down our arms against ourselves. Okay, so let's start with the short part. Okay, an extract I told you from a book. So maybe the translator is not completely accurate, but excuse my French, just for you to catch the essence of the messages. I'm not here to give a course of English. I'm not English speaker, so be indulgent for that. Okay, so but the context is a dystopia. A dystopia is in the future, in 2050, for which the world is on a global governance. Okay, a kingdom, and the king is the devil, Satan. Satan, and his real name is Charles Atten. charlatan. You can understand charlatan, the play on the words in French and English is the same. Actually, Satan, etymologically speaking, in Aramean, in Hebrew, in Arabic, it means literally the obstacle. The obstacle and the separation, so the separation from the absolutes, the unity, the union, and the obstacle to the light. Okay, so it was one of the most, let's say, devotes towards God. And he refused to, let's say, to pray towards and to kneel towards human beings, despite it was the demand of God. But anyway, it's just for the kind of mythology. But here I'm trying to explain something very deep. It's not Satan like with the, no, not necessarily the icon. It's not the entity. This is deeper than this. This is kind of energy. Okay, we spent the key 71, I think, 71st, about that. Okay, 4 videos regarding that. It is like a energy, like egregore. Okay, form thoughts. Okay, about this. Okay, so it means that it is activated, is created as long as you are in low vibration, like fear, like hatred, like I don't know, fight, like all things negative. Okay, separating from the absolute, from the unity. That's the point. That's why also there is a link between, when it's badly used, the ego. Ego, as I like to say, age God out. Okay, the membrane for which the prism, the egoic, okay, present, in which you separate from God. But you never separate. It's just a desire and also a freedom that everybody, it's up to everybody to decide what they want. Just to put it into a context. Okay, so it's a dystopia for which is he reached the power thanks to admission of the word and of the citizen. Okay, so that's why this is the dictatorship of goodness. Okay, so anyway, let's start with it. The name, it is Here We Go, like ego, we go. Okay, try to understand. Okay, so I will read, and maybe I will interrupt sometimes to make some comments, or I will continue to keep the fluidity, but try to perceive the hidden, subtle messages. There are a lot, of course. Sometimes there will be some, let's say, some nicknames for when you have on internet, when you have your real name or a nickname. So I will use them, but sometimes not. Okay. So, but at the beginning is more philosophical, metaphysical, and then after 5 minutes, it is something more like an exchange on internet. Okay, on the website, on the social media, and you will understand the functioning of the spiritual egos. Well, let's start. The goal has always been, so this is Satan talking, charlatan. The goal has always been to reinforce polarity and duality by maintaining the dynamic of divide and conquer, by demonstrating the two extremes of man, incapable to recreating paradise on earth in materiality and unworthy of unity, incapable to express his divinity nor to unite with his fellow men without the ego taking over. Thus, in recent years, we have worked essentially on 2 axes. First, the total chaos on one hand, with the excess of freedom, as well as an individualism as paroxysm, result of the word of the barbarians. Second, the desired and co-opted absolute submission of totalitarianism and disempowerment, as well as collectivism at its peak, dilution of individuality in the mass. It was a kind of referendum, and or if I'm a little bit teasing, referent dumb, okay, like dumb, dummy, a choice in him to express his double polarity, demoniac and angelic. In both cases, the individual had complete freedom to activate his angelic dimension, let's say divine unity, but he fell as always. The technique is simple as has not changed for millennia. I strongly insist, divine to conquer better, and in parallel, federate thanks to an external threat, created from scratch a big shock of fear to better bring a solution, and thus pretend to be the savior. We have been replaying this scenario since the dawn of time by simply changing the costumes, the sets and the actors, but everything always changes, so that nothing really changes. In truth, everything changes in appearance. One tyrant hunts another one. A savior and liberator goes astray over time. Human groups naturally divine for power struggles. And you know why? Let's say what is at the center of all of it? What is the dynamic if you had to sum it up in one word? Asked Charles with a wide smile, trying to set a trap for Clarence, who replied instantly, "You, Satan." Charles smiled. "Oh, but it's too much honor. Indeed, this is exactly what most of humanity believes, and thus empowers and credits me. However, I'm nothing. I'm a simple servant, an advisor who suggests, like the Holy Spirit, in the opposite direction, the evil mind, perhaps, a word to a wise, or a word to an idiot. I told you, keep this preciously in mind. I propose and man disposes. No, it's not me. It is the reason why you felt, you fall, and you will fall eternally as long as you absolve yourself of responsibility by systematically putting the blame on me. It is ego. The ego is the part of the human that thinks it is separated and fragmented from the unity that you commonly call God. It is a pure illusion that comes at birth from incarnation, symbolically the fall of the Garden of Eden. Me, the snake, initially I only gave the choice to become aware of this potential segmentation, this separation, which is only an illusion. But as soon as the human believes in it, then it makes it real in its principle of co-creation. Beyond this notion of light, not all truth is good to know. Hence, this idea of happy, simple-minded people. But, hey, I digress. Okay, I just wanted to do a bit of wit. Let's resume. The ego is like a black hole in physics, a centripetal force whose attraction is so strong that it swallows everything and encompasses everything. Basically, it attracts everything to itself and thinks it is the center of the world. It is a glutton, a vacuum cleaner of everything, even space-time. That being so, in return, this attractive force in the universe involuntarily generates in the law of duality an opposition centrifugal force to compensate. Thus, this black hole is at the origin of the dynamics of the evolution of the universe, without which it would be static as before the famous Big Bang, although there has been and there still is presently an infinity of Big Bangs at the different scales, but that's another story. I hope you follow me, but knowing that you are particularly intelligent, I know you understand. So by flattering your ego, I will make the connection. All human patterns are governed by ego games. The victim, the executioner, the savior. This is a triptych, a trinity, a game of musical chairs. The ego, to survive, must separate from the units. Otherwise, it disappears. It is the reason for being, its only means of existence. However, as I have widely mentioned, to exist, etymologically speaking, means to separate, to fragment, implied by the absolutes. Thus, he does everything to differentiate himself from the masses, from others, by engaging in endless power struggles. If, on the psychological level, you analyze individual human behavior since the dawn of time, they are only potential egos. This ranges from the biggest megalomaniac dictator to the little innocent baby who cries when another child takes his toy, which he was not paying attention to and which is precisely doesn't want to lend, or when he cries because mom takes care of his brother and leaves him for a few seconds. And the sneaky side of its principle is that it's extremely difficult for humans to free themselves from ego's words, because to signify it, to think it puts you out of the game once again. So you differentiate yourself by a form of wisdom and boom, you keep falling back into the ego, sucked in and aspired by its black hole effect. Well, let's have a little fun. Here is a little fictional scene that could have happened like in your time, in the Stone Age of Internet. Imagine that you write an article on social networks on the theme of the ego that you title "Here We Go." Taking care to choose an illustration with a character created from scratch precisely with hundreds of Lego pieces that seems to be both hierarchy but also opening his shirts, his coats to access to his superpower, like a superhero opening his heart and his chest. Beyond your beautiful article, which invites us to question ourselves on the real I am, beyond the mask of the personality, persona in Latin means the mask, a concept borrowed from the Greek dramaturgy to represent emotions, to explain skillfully, according to you, that the ego is the fruit of a shaping of the social, educational, cultural, religious order. Thus, you suggest to question it and possibly reprogram it to precisely free oneself from its empower implicitly from his limiting unconscious ego prison, so that he resumes his place as a docile good servant rather than a capricious bad master or even a perverse dictator. In addition, you embellish all your illustration, your article and its title with a catch phrase. The ego is a simple construction game like a child plays when well behaved like a good servant. However, it proved to be a complicated demolition game like the tantrum of a spoiled kid when he becomes the master. I can tell you this is brilliant. You are proud of yourself. You are satisfied with it and therefore share it on the social networks. We can say that you self-gratify your ego, but you choose to publish under a pseudonym because you want a certain humility, great wisdom of your ego. And at the same time, you are not sure at 100% of yourself. Tendency of your ego to put you down. In short, two faces of your little ego, neither of which is completely right nor completely wrong. It plays with you and plays rollers, coasters, and even Russian roulettes with your moods. You give yourself the name, pseudonym of Bonobody, like bonobo and mix bonobo and nobody, okay? Bonobo, the monkey, and bonobody. Then, as you know, since your approach is precisely to reveal the true face of the ego, the latter viscerally needs to distinguish itself from the others, the mass, the absolute, by being noticed, and to do so, this by building or destroying, basically by its capacity for benevolence or harm. To make it simple and less romantic, he loved to bring it back, to open up his big mouth. What is not your surprise to see a message full of errors and spelling mistakes, focusing on a detail, and especially this unidentified nickname perceives the subtlety of your sharing at the height of his intellectual capacities. So the nickname is Master Degree to Bonobody. Lego is I-Z, not written, V-R-I-T-E-N, like L-I-K, like this, T-I-S, okay. Before thinking, being clever, C-K-L-I-V-R, learn orthograph, well, full of spelling mistake. Then a complice seems to go in your way, which flatters your ego. Mr. Clean, to you, to him, sorry, and you. When the wise man points the moon, the idiot looks at the finger. Thank you for having played the role of the useful idiots. I feel less stupid, and you, Mr. Bonobody, thank you for your wisdom. You hasten to respond immediately to the second one, Mr. Clean, since he is complacent towards you, thus feeding your ego. So you reply him, thank you for your welcome, while specifying that it is not my ego which is flattered, but my divine part which feels honored by your enthusiasm, literally in Greek, crossed by the divine. I also thank you for your sense of derision. It is also a form of deconstruction of the ego. When you say that it doesn't flatter the ego, it is called denial. This is a pure product of the ego, which tried to confuse the different other egos. Because of course it is your ego which is flattered. Moreover, the fact that the fact he agrees with you means that means that it is his divine side which expresses itself gratefully, and thus reconnecting with your own divinity. Ooh la 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 la! This is even not this. It is even more no more spiritual ego, but the hell of a megalomania, if I can afford. Praised by Mr. Clean, your ego being in full confidence, you answer to the first one, poor Master Degree. Indeed, sorry, I had not lent attention. Could you send me your dictionary, please? No need to decipher that you are fully in a game of ego, shooting at a ambulance that machine gun you. We agree, but with a water pistol driven by a dummy or dumber. Another, a certain Confucius, outbids himself as wanting to be the masked vigilante, okay, of the first one. Sorry. Still under an anonymity of the name and profile photo. He wants to be above the ego and doesn't give a damn about a poor guy who makes a remark to him because his little ego can't stand criticism. bloody MFFO. Okay, fuck off. Welcome to the benevolence of New Rage spiritually. Suddenly you are shocked, you are upset all day, you don't answer, you don't know what to do anymore. Your ego hadn't anticipated this phase of the multi-faced game like an infinite Rubik's Cube. The same evening, the famous masked vigilante is dubbed by another Zorro, a certain Zizi, who sign with a tip and just say to you how he shut your mouth, shut your mouth. Sorry. Then another one with a great finesse, tact and diplomacy say to you, but no, you are to him. Sorry, you are stupid. You don't understand anything. Mister is arrogant and thinks of responding to idiots with silence. Another one. It is who is say he is. Okay, last kids saying. Another simply puts without explanation to your initial message. False. No explanation. Another one adds with the great wisdom. I validate. Like if implicitly means that it is necessarily gospel. Always in a very constructive criticism and the debate, but precisely is source, which are necessarily authentic for all atheists. The Bamako coconut, okay, bonobody, to nobody. No, the ego is Satan. It is the pastor. Here we go, who say so. Another great philosopher immediately replies, you talk too much shit as Team Robin Hood. Okay, Team Robin Hood, say the super coach of everything. Without ego, you are a plant without power. Only loser have no ego. Another one passing by, bored, say to you, you guys are taking your mind too much. Another one, what are the goals? What are the goals, guys? To which respond and spy a troll, a little joker. The game of Go is a kind of game of chess among the Chinese or Japanese. I'm always confused to both. In short, the Brits. A mocker of the Joker reply him, you look good in chess with playing with your sister. The Japanese are the mean Chinese during the war who became nice thanks to the atomic bomb. The other are the Chinese who were smart when we were average in the Middle Ages and became stupid thanks to socialism, then capitalism and individualism because drawn to the mass since they are more than billions of billions. Faced to this cacophony, you try to reconcile and ease tension with a rather benevolent message. Thank you for your sharing and moods. It brings me back to myself, the idea where the other embodies the blessing, the enrichment to widen our field of consciousness because we are mirrors which by reflecting inspire us mutually to infinite way and above all let us keep in mind while remaining united. Absolute truth is the sum of relative truth. Once again, you are proud of yourself. Your ego has been fed positively according to you because you think you have known how to tame it, your ego. Since at the start, its animal and reptilian side simply wanted to jump at their throats and to kick their ass. That being the case, you prefer to respond in a calm and conciliatory way to show the great wisdom of your ego as well as its immense humility. What is your surprise when you see a wave of insults and very bad comments towards you? What do you think you are? Do you think you are superior? Don't be clever and clever because you googled and stole two poor shitty quotes. You are nobody, bonobody. Service. Another reply to this one, serious brother, he quotes without the right to quote. Quoting other people's sentence make believe that you want to show that you are learned and educated, and that doesn't correspond to a life of independence of mind, especially now when we know that the so-called scholars are of time were people who manipulate us. Edited messages, implying he went back to it several times. Another one, if you answered, it's because your ego is touched and injured, though it is because you have something not settled in you. Another one, brotherhood, Jesus saves. Okay, a classic that's often happen like this. Being a fan and a ventilator, my God, you are so inspiring and you are the Messiah. Another one, now future, like no future, and now future. FO, like fuck off. Simple and in the same time not really assertive because we just put the initials. So you are disgusted. You are having a very bad night. Your ego is really down. You can't sleep. You are so upset. You condition yourself by rationalizing and saying to yourself, let it go. But it is stronger than you. Your ego calls you. You are not a coward. At 2 a.m., 22, mirror hour. Although plugged into darkness, your ego, a priori lucid, push you to turn on the light again. Get up and send a luminous message which allows you to free yourself from your dark south. I hesitate to quote again a wisdom to both Tibetan and Sufi embodying the world heritage of humanity. It doesn't belong to me. It is precisely universal, showing the beauty of diversity and especially in cultures of humanity. Y-O-humanity. If what you have to say is not more beautiful than silence, then abstain. Then at this time, if I apply to myself, no one would have been able to know or to read it. No hard feeling. One more time, you take yourself a third wave of criticizes and insults. Islamo-leftist, fucking bohem gypsy eating sushi. I think soy man for free. Personal, another one, mama do it. If you want to cast a spell to someone, contact me in personal message. A troll, say gay like this for free. The next morning, exhausted, you wake up because you slept only 2 hours because of extreme anxiety attacks and having meditated on existential questions concerning the deep nature of mankind. Feeling inspired, so you simply write. This will be my last message. In front of the wall of shame, hoping that it will echo in you, in reference to the great Umberto Eco, author of In the Name of the Rose. Social networks have given the right to speak to legions of idiots who before only spoke at the bar and did no harms to the community. They were silenced immediately. Today they have the same right to speak as a Nobel Prize. And it goes hand in hand. Tolerance will reach such a level of smart people will be banned from thinking so as not to be too often fools. This is from Dostoevsky. Without sparing any suspense, all the great philosophers, humanists, and other intellectuals show the best way with insults. So you are completely down, your ego is stronger, and tried a last tactic. Criticism is easy, art is difficult. It is certain that there is no risk to make any mistakes when you don't do anything for your life. What do you do concretely apart from being watchtowers that tracks down the slightest misstep? What are your contributions to trying to raise awareness? You attempt phase and result in a surge, bad words growing in number and intensity. Then you explode. You can't take it anymore. Your ego is breathed and manifests itself in even more acerbic provocation. The more I explore human nature, the more it disgusts me. And in compassion, I begin to understand Satan, who did not want to prostrate himself in front of man, who in the end, in a huge majority, has always been only one fat shit, a mindless parasite, a slave to his selfishness, his impulsiveness, his repressed dark shadows, blind by his oversized ego, always thinking and wanting to be right, always in judgment by separating himself from the human race and constantly applying his good old law of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, where in this dynamic, this is the man who will end up one-eyed and toothless. I'm ashamed to belong precisely to the human race. I would like so much to be separating from this race of pork. Unsurprisingly, you helplessly witness a sixth wave of insults with purrs like Luciferian. You finally show your true rotten face. Vade retro Satanas. Jesus save, always him. He wants to advise him, maybe. Jesus save yourself. SOS, save our soul. I'm very hot. Are new for naughty encounters. Contact me in private message. You know, like any context. Illuminati, Mr. Zen. So Mr. Zen say, Illuminati, reptilian, pedosatanist. We are going to kill you and sell it to draconians vermin. Okay, Mr. Zen. Are you very Zen? Yeah. Another one. Under Jew, okay, conspirationist, under Jew, okay, for free. The last one is very symbolic and more than evocative, but let's go on. Faced with this tidal wave of insults, you can no longer control yourself. You explode and fall into an emotional torrent that overwhelms you. So with your finest digital pen, without rereading yourself, you're pushed by your ego and its unconditional hatred. In an apocalyptic fire, you write with an unconscious messianic desire this without any rereading yourself. As Jesus said, don't take out your purse in front of the pigs. Go to hell, all you bunch of shits. Even if you are already there. Indeed, imagine that it must be hard to have your shitty lives and to be alone in your world with your abyssal bullshit that takes up all the space. A word of advice: rather than doing shit, at least do something for the planet and humanity. Commit suicide. It won't be a big loss. On the contrary, surely the only useful thing that you will have done. But even that, I'm not sure you're capable. Bunch of shit. Then, without even waiting for the returns after half an hour of raping you, mobbing your ego, push you to destroy all your posts and articles, annihilating all this time invested, all this energy in trying to raise the ego and free yourself and yourselves from it. I could have extended this pretty little story of hours and hours in different forms, because even if it is a fiction, very often it's happened as such in a majority of cases in your time. As I told you, the social networks were essentially there for you to fight each other. I told you conflicts are systematically linked to the ego like a black hole. As soon as you approach it, you are sucked into its darkness and you are irreversibly lost. Excuse my French, excuse my pronunciation, sometimes it's difficult. Concretely, try to meditate a few seconds on this if you're still there. This is purely ego since the beginning till the end. Actually, is not better than them, is the same than them. Okay, so the universe is back an image that is. Finally, when they criticize him, you see the accumulation of hatred is limitless. He became the worst demon on earth. Despite he wanted at the beginning to demonstrate his detachment for the ego. No, if you fight the ego, if you fight the devil and so on, you are always absorbed. Always absorbed. That's why I come back to this sentence. The ego is like a black hole. In physics, a black hole attracts everything, space-time, the planets, everything. So the ego is at the same dimension. The ego is like a black hole. Certainly, it is at the center of our existence. Its attraction and repulsion allow the stability of life. However, if badly managed, it can absorb everything in its path towards nothingness. Okay, if you are trapped by a black hole and an ego, actually you don't survive. So if you take a certain distance of it, it's okay. It's the same principle. So ego, you just have to take a certain distance of it. Some people, they just want to fight. They just, because they have a problem of ego, they have a problem of self-confidence, they just want to piss you off, or they just, because of jealousy and so on. So you can just extract from it. You can say, okay, I'll let you fight against yourself. Okay. The second sentence was, ego games are like the medieval dueling, provocation of yesterday. You know, in the past, you're on the street and someone say, I don't know, son of beep, immediately you were obliged to say, okay, dueling. And the day after, so with a word or with a gun, you were obliged to have a vengeance for the honor of your family, for example. Nowadays doesn't exist anymore, and it's so ridiculous. Imagine I didn't do anything, but because of this guy, he's completely drunk and he insulted my mother, and I'm obliged to take the risk to die the day after. Is ridiculous, right? In the future, we will have the same feeling for what the fight we have for nothing, for the egos, the debates, completely sterile debates, without any arguments. The guy is so upset. He's spending such an energy, it is fiction, such an energy, time and so on, against pseudonyms. They don't exist. Maybe they are trolls, they are just joker. So what is the point? Or, you know, it's like when you have lights in your car and the guy put the very high lights, so you're like blind, and you're completely pissed off against this guy. Or someone tell you a story and you're upset during half an hour about this story. Maybe it's a fiction. It's completely unvirtual. It's not rational. It's the same thing. So that's why I'm pretty sure that so I come back to this ego games are like the medieval dueling provocation of yesterday. Nowadays we find such ritual breaking, and rightly so. Maybe tomorrow will be the same when we decide to lay down our arms against ourselves. Yes, you have the right to say, okay, fight against yourself. Okay, problem of ego, I don't want to enter in it. But even that, he can say, okay, who do you think you are? If you, it means that you take a certain distance, so you are also in the ego. So it's endless. Well, as an openness, as an opening kind of conclusion, as I told you, ego is not to eradicate, is to manage properly, to avoid to be a slave of it, and to have the capricious effect of it. It can be a good servant. Okay, it's important to keep our duality, individuality, but preserving it, and also unity. It's not something one. It's not a duality. It's not two options. You can be, I am a father, I am a husband, I have a family, but I also have my individuality. It's not I have to choose family spirit and or individuality. No, I can be both, and every component are essential in our society. So the goal is to find back this unity with a separation, which is completely possible. So the most important thing I would advise you, I told you many times, but to admire the different costumes, the different masks of the masquerade, but the costumes that we just wear, is the boss, is the assistant. So, you know, the hierarchy and so on. All the orchestration regarding that is quite funny at the end. Okay, so when you take some amusement of it, like a distraction from yourself, also self-mockery as well, you take a certain distance and more half about life, and still part of it. But I swear to you, it doesn't affect your mood, and it doesn't lower your energies. And then, because everything is linked to that, what is ascension is the fact to lift. To lift your energy, to be light, and lighted light, okay, is linked to that, okay. Otherwise, if you have matters, duality, density, fear, segmentation, so it's a question of choice, and it's a question to decide. So actually, I explain existing means to separate. I think now it's clear, but the most important thing I told you already, but please keep this in mind. If you had to summarize this five chapters, is the following: every situation, every encounter, every action, try to think, to visualize one essentially thing. Am I in the heart or in the mental, in the mind? Am I in the unity or I am in the separation? The low frequencies or the highest frequencies is the question of choice. Am I at peace or in the resentments, jealousy, comparison, or am I in the completeness? And completeness is such a beautiful word. Well, I invite you not to think about it, but try to put into practice daily. Is really important. It would help you to take a certain distance and to give less load to your ego. Well, I hope it will help you to shape your master key to open up the doors of consciousness, of love, or whatever you want. As you know, all the roads lead to Rome and to the Dome. Thank you for your attention, and see you very soon.